Hi, and welcome back to Popversations. And today we wanted to talk about the new era of Kiss that was just announced. And we got some feelings about it. And we just want to say that we are Kiss fans. We always have been. We love their music. We've been to see them, like both of us, like 1 or 2 times have been to see them. I like them.
5 or 6 times.
Really? You went that many times?
Yeah, like 5 or 6 times probably.
Yeah, so we're fans. So we are just saying like how we feel. Did you not turn your phone on?
It's fine. Bad.
Just
no one's gonna message.
You're so popular.
Yeah.
So yeah, we just I saw that like announcement and I didn't really know like what to feel about it at first, because at first you're like, oh, that's interesting, but then I think the main issue I have with it for me is that they're not including like Peter and Ace in it. And I don't think that they want to be in it, but that they're doing something without the original members of the band and saying you want to immortalize the band without them or acknowledging them. And I know that they don't talk or whatever.
It just shouldn't be, I don't know. It kind of feels like an extension of a brand more than a band, and it's been that way for a long time. I think there's a difference between, not wanting people to be a part of a tour, people not wanting to be a part of a tour, and you choosing to not acknowledge anyone during your final few shows, whether that be Bruce Kulick, Mark St. John, R.I.P. Eric Carr, and to live in a reality where those people aren't existing in their eyes is pretty weird, especially considering Eric Carr, really, when you break it down, got Kiss through an identity crisis that they were facing. I mean, Vinnie Vincent is another member that they, you can have your disdain, and, the fans that have stayed true can disagree all they want, but at the end of the day, I think there's a disrespect for what came before, what was there, what kept you going, and my issue with it wasn't.
They didn't come to the concerts just to see.
Yes, my issue with it is
Paul and Gene
not giving everyone their flowers. And I know Ace and Peter didn't want to be a part of the A&E biography. I know that I don't think they have anything to do with the Netflix movie coming out. Which, be prepared for that. That's gonna be interesting. And now with this Avatar thing, which is our main focus here, it's just. It's not just going to be Kiss that does this, but
it's
they
opening
just
up a weird can of worms.
They just wanted to be first.
Yeah, and you know how everybody feels about each other, and so like going in, like knowing that, you're like, I can see why these people aren't involved just because of their relationships and like how the things that have been said over the years and stuff like that. But I agree with you. It's just not including people just feels strange, and then to do this. It just, I don't know, it's just like I saw it and and I appreciate the work that like all those people that worked on it like put into it to make this happen, because they do like shine a light on that in the video that they made, which I think is really nice. And it seems like they went to like another country like to get this done, and they weren't talking too much about the process of it, and I was wondering if maybe they had like some sort of license on this technology or like it was part of their brand in some way, because it just seems like it's very, like it's not like...
To be honest, I would have rather them put 4 different people in the makeup like they had talked about. I know that Slipknot's talked about that because, Corey's son is in the band and another member's son is in the band.
And that's how you could have it live on too in a way, but I just don't know if they would ever...
It's just not, it's not Kiss at that point, okay? It's just not. It's like, I don't know. It feels wrong to me, and the excuse of, people not coming up with their own characters, basically saying that everything that came before it sucked. And it's like, yeah, once again, way to kind of, diss, former members of the band and what they created and what they brought to the table. I don't like that. It's Paul and Gene's band. Yes, it's been that way for a long time, but that's probably the thing that annoys most people. They have their own restaurant. Like, everything is so commercialized.
And then the video, they were plugging a lot of things. Like, they had that book out. They're, like, talking about the museum in Las Vegas. And it's like, okay, like, can we just, it just all seems very, like, it's just one big ad. And they were, saying how, it's we're transcending and being, like, turning immortal, like, for the fans, because this is the fans thing. Like, this is something that people asked, kind of almost saying, like, oh, this is something that people wanted or asked for.
I didn't ask for it. I don't even want them to make a movie, because I already know what's gonna happen. And
I'm very nervous about
that. I'm also very nervous about it, because you have the two people that are in creative control, and it's just, to me, especially if this is the final thing, if they're truly honest, which we all have to remain skeptical. I'm kind of a decent on this.
Every time they say farewell, I'm like this, because that has happened with multiple bands multiple times.
I gotta see you in that Kiss coffin for me to buy into this being the final show. That's how I've always felt about it. And given the state of Paul's voice, and I'm fine with bands using backing tracks, but to me, I think that you should just be a little honest about it. For the fans. If you're for the fans and you believe that this is a fans band, if you're not up to snuff or whatnot, I think you should be open and honest about what you're doing to enhance the show. I mean, people are paying good money to go see the show, and denying it, which they did, for a really long time. I don't know. It's just, I think when you really can't do it anymore, as a band, as a vocalist, as a guitar player, whatever, I think it should have been shut down then. I really do. I really felt like they were on the mountaintop. They didn't feel like the final tour with Ace and Peter went really, really well, because there were some shows that didn't go very well, and so they didn't want it to end. But I think if, to be quite honest with you, I think this band should have ended after their 2010 album. I think you should have just went on a final tour there and called it.
But I can see the reasoning being like, oh, there's people that are like wanting to still. I mean, obviously they're still having concerts and people are still buying tickets. So I know that there probably is a demand. Like,
there's generations of fans.
Oh,
that's
yeah,
cool.
For sure.
That's cool.
But it kind of becomes. It kind of like cheapens things in a lot of ways when you just you start like doing the plugs and stuff. And then can we just talk about like the graphics on the motion capture? And I don't know if this was intentional, but it just clearly it's not meant to be like
realistic,
super realistic. But I think for it to be more grounded, the characters themselves need to be like really good. And you can see like what stuff AI can do nowadays with like and the way that we have like CGI and stuff, and like it is just not where if it was me and it was me being immortalized in that way, like it is not where I would want it to be. It's just, it seems a little outdated, technology.
It's everything they wanted. It looks like the Nightmare Child game that came out back in 2000 and whatever, or 1999. I remember we had it on a computer. That's what it looks like.
Yeah, a little bit.
I maybe the argument is you want to make it more theatrical, because I mean this is like something that could show up on like a late night TV show.
Well, it was just really weird because like the there's no drums. Like, he was just drumming circles on the air of, like, way more circles than there would be. Like,
Yeah.
it was just, that part of it was, like, super weird, because it's like, okay, what's that about? Because it's not, it's very much, like, making it not, like, a concert then. Because if I just want to see, like, if you want to change the landscape or have, like, stuff in between the songs is what I'm assuming, like, they're going to start doing with it, is they're going to have, like, it's going to be, like, a show, like you would watch on TV or something like that. But it just seems weird to not ground it in, like, having, like, the actual drum set and having them in that, like, setting where it looks like what you would see in real life. And it's just, it's very fantastical, it's very theatrical, and I think it's kind of a lot, because they're putting a lot, like, out there with that announcement in the first place. So to see it and, like, have it be not realistic, which again, that could be their intention, it's a lot to process, and I just don't know if I personally would have gone that direction.
No, I kind of stepped away from the train a long time ago, and I don't think that we're being elitist or anything when we say, when I got into KISS, it was the sound, and there is a very distinct sound from the original 4 members to now, and it's okay to have a preference of, like, how the band sounded, how the band performed, because it is different. It is different. Everybody's, there is some imitation, and things like that. And, in defense of Tommy and Eric, they're hired guns. They're going to do what they're told to do.
And they've been doing it off and on for, I think they said 20 to 30 years. They've both off and on been a part of it. So it makes sense that they're still there.
I take the faults in the previous past of band members and all the BS that came from back in the day. I take that out of it. I look at it from a musical standpoint and what initially drew me in as a fan. So, like, the albums, like Rock and Roll Over, Destroyer. There's all the early KISS albums, like, in comparison to the ones that came after, to me, are much easier to listen to all the way through without skipping one song. I must have reenacted a live one with my fake guitar in my bedroom more times than I can.
We had all those VHS tapes of all their, like, concerts and stuff, and we would just watch that all the time. And it was, I just remember, like, being at the concert and, like, the fire going and, like, and it's just, it's such a good show, like, what they've done. But I think it's just been kind of,
the magic is a little...
It's been, like, mainstreamed too.
Yeah.
And kind of, like I said, like, and again, that's, like, just me personally, it's kind of been cheapened by the branding, by feeling like you need to have that branding on everything, because the only reason that I can think of to do that would be, like, like, the profit of it. I don't really see, like, what other reason there would be for you to put that on everything and feel that need to do that and have that stamp on it. And I just remember, like, reading about, like, I think it was on, I think it was on Redbubble, like, just the requirements that they have for, if you're gonna use reference photos from them, you only get, like, these 20 if you're gonna make something. And if you're gonna have, like, the members of the band on something that you make, like, it can only either be, I think it was, like, one member of the band or all 4. It couldn't just be 2 or something like that. And it was like, very stringent, like, very just a lot of rules for it, which was kind of interesting to me. And it's just, because I think when you start doing that, it almost creates, like, this restrictive like, thing in that sense, because it's like, wouldn't you want people to make, like, cool art of you and do whatever they wanted and, like, see that? Like, I would love that. Like, if I was in that position and people were making, like, fan art of me, I would want to see everything. I would want to see everything they want to do, and I wouldn't say, hey, you can only do this because it fits our certain look and our certain thing that we want, if you're gonna, potentially even be, like, profiting from it. And I just think it kind of, like, takes away the spirit of
It's the same thing with us making this video. If they were to ever get their hands on it, we're kicked off the fan club train just because we don't have a set way of looking at things, and to play devil's advocate for previous members that I know have voiced their disdain for the commercialization of the band. It's like,
made it more accessible.
Lord forbid that, different band members see it a different way and think that it gets a little cheesy and it gets a little crass. I mean, you got to remember when they were first starting to head into their identity crisis, probably late 78, 1979, as they go into Dynasty and they wear those ridiculous costumes in the Dynasty tour, and then they do the Dynasty record, and then they kind of get back to where they are in Creatures, but Peter's out of the band and Ace is on his way out, and then they go back to the identity crisis with the Elder, and then they have to bring in Vinnie Vincent, then the identity sort of kind of comes back with Lick It Up, and then it gets lost until, I don't know, Revenge in like 1992. I don't think that there's a whole lot of great albums from Kiss in the 80s, if I'm being honest. I mean, I like Lick It Up, Animalize is okay, Hot in the Shade's okay, but I don't think they
that
really...
was one of their mistakes in that they were trying to do something, because they were trying to do like a disco record. They were trying to appeal to a mass and commercialize it.
This is what they're doing now with the Avatar stuff.
And it didn't go well. It wasn't real well received because it didn't feel like them, and it felt like a little bit, to people at that time, as a sellout.
My worry is, like, for the fans, like, it's okay to like the band in the now, and I will still always have a fandom for the band. My issue is, like, the people that see the band or have seen the band the last 20 or so years with the current lineup, is that's who they think Kiss is and always was. And a whole lot of them still don't know what came prior and who started this up.
I'm just nervous too. And it's the same thing with
like the Avatar thing. The thing that worries me is just like, if the fans were willing to pay a concert ticket to see the group one last time on this tour, which there's nothing wrong with that. If somebody did, it's okay. But like, if you're willing to do that, they're more than willing to spend tickets to go see Avatars.
And that's what I'm nervous about, is like, how's
that can of worms that you're talking about? I'll be clear with it. I don't have a problem with something like this if you like keep it in the realm of like Vegas, or like maybe they think it's they're too big for this, but like a state fair thing, or like something that is like an actual attraction that you can bring. Don't make it a tour or anything crazy like that.
And I don't know if like what direction they're gonna go with it exactly, but it, like you said, it just kind of like makes you wonder, like, okay, what are we doing here, and where is this? Because I don't know if they specified that as much.
No, they just, it was a 30-minute video, and you got to see kind of what they were doing. It's on kissonline.com. It's on their YouTube, but like they were very vague on what they were really gonna do with it. At the end of the day, kudos to Paul and Gene for doing it this long, and as many issues as some Kiss fans or people have with them. Like it or not, this band has stood the test of time, and it's been extremely influential. It's just you kind of wish things went in a different direction.
I think we might be getting a little big for our britches on like the impact and the legacy of the band, in that it's this transcendent, like, ideal
I wouldn't
experience.
go that far.
And it's like, no, it's like, I think of it more, it's like you have that very loyal, like, Kiss Army fan base, and like that's your legacy. That's your legacy, is the fans and the generational impact of it. And they do mention that, but they kind of talk about, Paul's talking about the band as if it's like
this
entity. It just seems like,
I wouldn't go that far.
I don't know if I would go that far, and like I don't know who else would, but it's and it's funny, it's like, say the kissonline.com things. I just remember like that comedian talking about how he was on Howard Stern and he did like such a good Gene impression, and he would just like
say products.
He would be like, make up products and be like, go on kissonline.com. And then like Gene found out about it because people like thought it was him, and they'd like yell at him on the street. And like he was like actually angry about it, and then they said, and like I'm pretty sure.
It's funny that you mentioned that.
Yeah, and then he said that he was plugging stuff like when he came on the show, like,
because Sebastian Bach said when he went over to Gene Simmons' house, just a small anecdote. Sebastian went over to Gene's house, the one that was on Gene Simmons' family jewels, and went into the Kiss museum that Gene has. It's every product that's ever been Kiss, ever, and which is a lot. And he saw plastic Kiss phone cases, and Sebastian goes, "Oh, these are kind of cool," like in his Sebastian Bach voice, and said, "Can I have one?" And Gene was like, "I would love to, but if you just go to kissonline.com, you can purchase these." And I'm like, dude, this is like, not saying that it's like, but this is like a guy that
it's
toured
why don't
with
you?
This is like a guy that toured with you, and this is like a plastic that costs you nothing. He wants one. It's not like he's asking to take the whole entire lot. It's that constant like selling. And
it's the gatekeeping of it.
Gatekeeping of it.
That's what it is. Oh,
so
I think
now,
I found the weird buzzword for it.
So with the Avatar thing, it's kind of the same thing. There is a sense of even gatekeeping in that aspect too, and the idea, I think, in their minds is, well, other bands will follow, and they'll follow because we did it, and like this is going to be something.
And the only other thing I could think of is that they maybe like thought other bands would do this, and they want, like you said, like they want to be first. Like it was like one of those two things, or maybe a combination of both. But I just have a feeling, just the way that they've done it, and that it seems like they've like worked on this like with people like from around the world, or like I don't know. It just seems like it was a project very much like outside of a lot of things, like outside of a lot of the technology they use now, and that it seems like it's very much their own technology in some way. So I just have this like feeling that they have like some sort of patent or license on some part of this.
There's a plan, a bigger grand scheme plan.
Because if they're saying we're going to be immortal, I feel like they definitely. Because I would hope that they would, see people's reactions and then kind of go off like what people are telling them and they want. But when you're saying that this is like you becoming immortal and like you're being immortalized in this thing, it just feels like you already have a very set thing of what you want to do. And I don't know if that's a good idea, because I feel like it should be, if you're going to do something this big, it should be something that can change, it can evolve over time. And I just don't know if that's something that they would do.
Just be honest with it. Like, even if you're a diehard Kiss fan, just be honest with it. Be realistic with it. You don't have to just, like, simp for the band because that's what they kind of expect you to do. Like, I love the band. I appreciate all the members that came during the band's tenure. I don't want to, like I said, I could hit low-hanging fruit and rip Eric Singer and Tommy Thayer to shreds like most people want to, but I don't want to do that. There's no need to do that. They're doing what they're told to do, and they're a part of something. It's okay, and they're very talented. They're very talented musicians. So like, it's
everybody
fine
that's
in that
been involved
sense.
in it has been
It's
very
fine.
talented. And
What's not fine is just like, taking the rights to the makeup, and then like when you're asked about why you've never created your own thing or why you've never tried to
like have them do different
emulate
characters
differently, and then you take it as like, well, we just don't do that because everything that came prior sucked. So, and then like all you people like complaining about it just need to shut
That's
your mouth.
literally almost exactly what he said.
What he said.
That's what Paul said.
Which I don't like. And so I think when you're talking about the legacy of the band, I also take into account how
everybody else that was involved.
Peter, Ace, even Bruce, Kulick, sometimes nobody's innocent all the time in how they've talked about previous band members. Nobody is over one or the other.
But they're way more silent about it, and I think their silence about a lot of things says a lot, because they don't really...
I think Ace's disdain comes from the fact that like he keeps coming out with really, really good solo albums and just has this disdain towards Gene and Paul because he feels like
he could have contributed those things to the band.
I think
like
part.
that music.
I do think that part of it though is in a way Paul and Gene underestimated what Ace was capable of, especially in the later years. And I know that some of the Ace live shows also haven't been good either. But at the same time, for the guy to still be coming out with music and have it be successful, I don't think that they really viewed him as as the musician that he actually is, and that's that. And then like to say that Peter couldn't play drums. I mean, I've had drummers tell me that the Detroit Rock City fill alone is one of the hardest to play. And Peter had his own style. He came from a jazz background. I mean, to say that the guy was untalented and that he didn't really contribute anything to your band when you're at this stage in your career, and you started as 4 original members, I just think it's crazy.
That's just impossible. Because the insinuation and like the claim of it was that they had to teach him how to play the songs before every concert. I'm sure there is no way that was happening.
I'm sure there were moments when he was loaded. You know,
everybody was loaded. Don't try and tell me they weren't. I'm sorry. They were all loaded at one point, many points, whatever. And it's just a crazy time. So, and then, you know, I'm sure Ace had his times, and I'm sure. But obviously the band wouldn't exist, and it wouldn't be still here now without Gene and Paul. It would not. But to have, like, the band go on and have, like, this revolving door of band members, which it happens, like, you know, band members change and, like, things like that, but, you know, it's just, in this particular instance, it says to me, like, no, we're the band, and the people, like, you know, the other 2 members of the band are just, they prop us up.
Yeah.
And they are, like, the background, and they are not the band. And whether they say that or not, that's just the feeling that I get from it personally, just, like, seeing, you know, like, experiencing, like, parts of Paul's autobiography and, like, what he said about everyone, and it just, and what he said about Eric was just terrible. You would think that the Eric Carr chapter would be, like, you know, more of a tribute than anything. Because he admits in it, and was the crazy thing for me, is he was talking about how big of a fan he was and how excited he was to be in the band. And he called him a schmuck. And turning that into a negative. And I just thought that was so strange. He called him a schmuck because he had never been around fancy things. Because, like, he didn't know how to dress. He didn't know how to really act in the limelight because it was all new to him. And, you know, talk about a guy who knows he's going to die, and all he wants to do is play drums in one of your music videos before he dies. That's something to think about. All he wants to do is play his heart out when he hardly has any strength. Yeah, and a part of it was... He knew he was gonna go, and he begged to be a part of the Forever video. He begged them to be a part of it. And for the fans to gravitate towards him when he joined the band, because he was his own personality, and he was all about the fans, and he never shot anybody down. You know, and when anyone talks about him, that's who he was. And I think that it's a shame for a guy I think the Fox makeup is just as iconic as any other character in the band, to be quite frank with you. And to lose a guy in my birth year, 1991, for him to only be 54, 55, and to contribute the way that he did, I mean, God rest his soul, because that's what kept the band going. Without Eric Carr, I don't think that Kiss even gets into that 80s period, to be quite honest with you. I really don't. I think that heavy style of drumming... And that's the unfortunate part, I think, is you're not acknowledging that. And you're not acknowledging, like, the yes, you're an integral part of the band, but you're not the only ones in the band. And, like, that's the thing. And to not acknowledge everybody that was involved at some point with this, and to say, like, this is the legacy, this is the end, this is the immortalization of us. At least show them on, like a video monitor or whatever, or, like, have, like, an in memoriam. Or even, like, just, like, little pictures of everybody's makeup. Or, like just a cartoonized version of just the makeup on each, like, or to come up, or something, just something. And like, that's just the part I think that bothers us a lot, is because we've just been there, like, through a lot of it, and, like, I've listened to all variations, like most
Kiss fans have, and I appreciate every single one. I think that there are some that are better. There were some that were more successful, but at the end of the day, it all makes up Kiss. So that's why, like I said, you don't need to hit the low hanging fruit. We're saying that they can't play. Like, of course they can play. At least Eric's got his own. But, if I were to critique it a little bit, at least Eric has his own style. It seems to me, on Tommy's end, he always wanted to be ace. He's in the position that, quite frankly, he always wanted to be in. He was in the Kiss tribute band, playing the role of ace, before he even got this role. They had a costume ready for him during the reunion tour where Ace was late. Ace punched him in the face because he's like, that guy is not going to go out in my gear, in my makeup, and you're not going to go and sell it to the fans like it's me, which they fully intended to do. And he was going to go out and sing like him. Shock Me's on the set list. He's emulating. I again, great guitar player and great drummer, and they've made their contributions, and they did keep Kiss going for another 20 years. Doesn't mean that I can't think that it went 20 years too long and that the commercialization and the marketing the band has almost become a parody of itself to a lot of people. I think more people than even they would like to believe. And so moving forward, I don't know how this is going to turn out. The Avatar thing to me is a little weird.
Final thing I'll say about it too is like I love like Kiss Unplugged. Like that was probably my favorite. That's my favorite album of theirs, and Paul singing, like he's an amazing singer, and he was and he still is a great singer, and I really respect his ability and stuff, and Gene's ability I know that he's the brains behind a lot of the things that they've done and the direction of the band and the creation of a lot of things that they still do and the show part of it. I know that he's behind a lot of that. And I mean, that's what made it so great was the theatricality of it and all of that. So, I mean, they've done some wonderful, amazing things in their careers.
They've written great songs.
And so I guess my thing is I just don't know if this is going to be one of those things. I don't know if this is going to be one of those great things or not. And that uncertainty and stuff, it as a fan, it just kind of, it just doesn't, sit well, the whole thing with me, for whatever reason, ever since I saw it. And I hope that, maybe we're wrong and maybe it'll be something that we like and everybody likes and then we can talk about it then, but we've wanted to, talk about the band for a long time because we just know a lot of the history behind it and have, sentimental, really big feelings about the whole thing. So it's just been nice to, air those out, and I hope that, other people can tell us, how they feel about it. Maybe, you've, gone to some of their later concerts and, you know how it is, and you want to, tell us how that was, and maybe it was amazing and you had the best time. And I would love to hear about any opinion on, what that is, because, like I said, it's kind of hard for me to really process and see how I feel about it yet, so I would just love to hear other people's opinions on it as well.
How I feel about the band now is it's not an easy thing. You don't want to change your viewpoint on a band that you love for so long, or look at them differently, but it's okay to be honest. I have a particular era that I like. I have a particular sound that I like, and you can have the same. And if there are people that don't have a problem with this and they're super excited about it, that's awesome. I'm not gonna shred it. I just, from our perspective, I think of people who have been around longer in the fandom as opposed to some of the younger fans that are coming up. The one thing that you can't deny is 4 or 5 generations of people have, you see the dad that was, and then the grandpa, and then the son and daughter on the shoulder.
So cool. And you don't see that with a lot of bands.
There are very few bands that you can say that. So at the end of the day, it's even with the commercialization and things, I mean, to still have that effect and be maybe a little bit less of what you were when you came to be, I think that's amazing. I think if anyone could do it, it'd be Gene and Paul. With how they do business, and I just think that this became more important than this, and that's what bugs me the most about it. It's the last thing that I'll really say. I think that you should do it for the love of this, and if we are truly your heartbeat, then I think you would have done the right thing and honored the people that we all know existed within the band.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just the Kiss army of fans. It's the fallen rock soldiers that were there with you during the whole entire process, during your entire career.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
And I think if you've gotten to a point where you've really alienated all of those people and you don't have that camaraderie and that relationship with them, that probably says a lot.
We also feel that too, when you read something or you hear something in an interview or in the media or whatever, we feel that effect too. And I don't think that registers all the time for members of the band when they speak on emotion.
We're still going and we're we're a Kiss, and
we still feel the repercussions of that too. So it hurts the fans, and I think you have to be a little bit more selfless, and I think sometimes even you have to be a little honest with yourself. If Gene and Paul said, yeah, this is kind of a parody now, and there's a self-awareness thing as
there's
opposed
no
to
self-awareness
it's like Corey Feldman playing music. There's no self-awareness.
No, there's no making fun of yourself. There's no nothing, and I think that's part of the problem, because there's no way. There's never been let's laugh at ourselves and let's be nothing like that.
Well, if you go back, if you need any evidence of that, watch the Tom Snyder interview where Ace and Peter make Gene and Paul's blood boil.
That's the god.
That's the firm example, and where that there's you can't be not serious all the time. That was a clear.
The closest thing they got was when Gene had that reality show.
Music will live on, stand the test of time. Blast it in your car. Share the music with your kids. There comes a point where seeing it live or expecting it to be what it once was just is not in the realm of reality. And I'm not a musician like them, where that passion, it's really, really hard to let go. I just wish people went out at
I don't know if
right
for
time.
them this is the right way to let go.
I don't think it was either.
Honestly, I would prefer, instead of this, personally, based on what I know of it now and what I've seen so far, I would have just died if, for their last concert and their last performance, Peter and Ace were there. And they just played one last song.
Peter's 78, so I think he could go out and perform Beth. And I think
just one.
You could get Ace to come out and play
one.
Shock Me, or something. They had been asked, from what I had heard, and I think that
it would just be nice if they had been on the terms.
I think there's a
to
lot
make
of
that happen, because that's really what it is they are not on.
There's a lot of disdain between current people in the band and people who are not in the band, and on both sides, not one side, on both sides, not being able to put that aside and not being able to stay in the realm of realism of what people are worth for their time, for a one-off thing. It robbed us at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and it robbed us as fans in the final show. And that's something that Kiss has to live with. I just kind of wish that would stop. I think everyone can kind of now ride off.
Just let everybody get along, and I just... Yeah.
Is it the end?
Is it the farewell? We'll find out.
I don't know.
Next time.
I don't know. Maybe next time. We might be doing another one of this. I'm not sure.
Yeah. So just let us know what you think, and we'll see you next time.